U.S. state of South Carolina. But despite its small size, Taiwan's population is not spread out equally. In fact, the vast majority, or about 90%, hugs its west coast, leaving its central and east coast relatively empty. So why don't more people live in Taiwan's east coast? As usual, it has to do with the country's economics, physical geography, and history. Taiwan is a mountainous island situated in the Western Pacific, separated from mainland China by the Taiwan Strait. It covers approximately 36,000 square kilometers, about the same size as the US state of Maryland, and lies at the convergence of the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate, making it a geologically dynamic region prone to earthquakes and typhoons, both of which are a huge part of today's story. Of course, the island's most striking geographic feature is the Central Mountain Range, which runs north to south, dividing Taiwan into distinct eastern and western regions. These mountains are some of the tallest in East Asia, with Yushan standing as the highest peak at 3,952 meters, roughly the same height as the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. The range consists of steep, forested slopes, narrow ridges, and deep gorges, with terrain that remains largely undeveloped due to its difficulty of access. The eastern side of the island is particularly rugged, where the mountains rise abruptly from the Pacific Ocean. In contrast, western Taiwan is much flatter and features more extensive plains and rolling hills. Taiwan's rivers are short and fast-flowing due to the island's steep topography. The Zhoushui River, the longest, stretches only about 186 kilometers. Many rivers originate in the central mountains and carve deep valleys as they descend towards the coasts, making them crucial for hydroelectric power. The Tarako Gorge, a famous natural wonder, was formed by the Liwu River, cutting through marble rock over millions of years, creating one of Taiwan's most breathtaking landscapes. Taiwan's geography plays a huge role in shaping its human settlement patterns, economy, and infrastructure. Despite being a relatively small island, the rugged interior and east coast remain largely undeveloped. Meanwhile, the fertile western plains have supported dense population and economic growth. But it's not all about the physical geography. There are historic reasons at play too. Taiwan is quite unlike most other countries in the world, mostly because while it is an independent country with independent elections, an independent military, and independent trade deals, it's not actually recognized as an independent state. And this has a lot to do with how and why Taiwan was settled by China. And one of the most important things to remember in this story is that the island has been home to indigenous peoples for thousands of years. These people are not directly related to the Chinese. In fact, they are Austronesian-speaking groups who arrived along the same migration patterns as New Zealand, Polynesia, Hawaii, and Indonesia. These indigenous groups developed distinct cultures and lived in scattered communities, primarily in the mountainous interior and along the coasts. Their presence remains a significant part of Taiwan's identity today, though they make up only about 2% of the population, or about 600,000 people. So, in a way, Taiwan is as much of a colonized country as many parts of the Western Hemisphere. But let's get back to how modern Taiwan was established. The earliest mentions of Taiwan interacting with China begin around the year 230, when military troops from the Eastern Wu Kingdom of China's Three Kingdoms period landed on its shores. Though there is some debate on whether this was actually Taiwan that they landed on or not. Various reports would include some mention of Taiwan, albeit under different names, for the next 1400 years. During the 1600s, Taiwan became a contested territory. The Dutch established a colony in the south, the Spanish briefly held territory in the north, and Chinese settlers, mostly from Fujian province, gradually moved onto the island. The Dutch were eventually expelled by Koxinga, a Ming loyalist who used Taiwan as a base of resistance against the Qing dynasty. However, his rule was short-lived, as Qing forces took control of Taiwan in 1683 and incorporated it into their empire. For over 2 centuries, Taiwan remained under Qing rule, though its position on the empire's periphery meant it was often overlooked. This changed in 1895, when the Qing were forced to cede Taiwan to Japan after their defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War. The Japanese brought modernization to the island, building infrastructure, railways, and industry, while also implementing strict colonial rule. Though resistance existed, Japan's influence reshaped Taiwan, leaving a legacy that persists in aspects of its architecture, education, and economy. After Japan's defeat in World War II, Taiwan was handed back to China in 1945, and this proved to be very lucky for the Taiwan that exists today. While remaining as a backwater through much of China's history, Taiwan would eventually occupy a prominent place in the Chinese Civil War, which had begun in the late 1920s. The Nationalist Republic of China government, under Chiang Kai-shek, fought against the communist forces led by Mao Zedong. Despite initial advantages, the nationalists suffered a series of devastating defeats due to poor leadership, corruption, and dwindling public support.